that is completely unserved may not be feasible because it doesn't incorporate a project that in its aggregate tackles the issue in multiple communities and includes both unserved and underserved. So I think our suggestion there would be just to make it clear that perhaps it's one or more communities where unserved or underserved are present, or just leave ConnectME Authority and providers the flexibility to tackle distinct areas where there is the greatest need. Secondly, in that same section, at the very end of it, there's a reference which suggests to me a preference for the term open access has been utilized. Really, I think we would suggest to you that you want to create the greatest flexibility for providers to serve this problem. It does not make sense to prescribe a particular type or management technology. So striking those last 7 words from that section would be our suggestion. And then lastly, the part of the bill which touches on community planning. I think community planning will serve to inform communities about what is really available in those communities. It is probably a worthwhile enterprise, but I would suggest that some language be added to it which would create greater transparency and reduce the likelihood that those folks working in the planning process have any undue interest in the final recommendation that is presented before a community. So that really concludes my comments. My written testimony has more detail. We look forward to working with the committee and the sponsors throughout the process. And just lastly, an earlier question, Representative Roman, you were inquiring about the level of service relative to other areas of the country. Our service in the 50-some thousand homes and businesses that we pass in Maine is the same level of service that is offered elsewhere. We did, about 2 weeks ago, announce a 2 gigabit deployment beginning in Atlanta that will pass 18 million homes. Those 18 million homes are parts of the network which are currently served by our 550 meg product, which includes all of our Maine properties. I thank you for your attention. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Hodgson. It's apparent to me that you have a service and a large footprint. Well, the cable industry, I'm talking about right now. But I obviously the interest is for us to reach that last mile and all of that. But the dilemma that you're afraid of is that we will provide public funding in some way to provide an alternative to your service. How can we accomplish our goals without stepping on your feet? That's what I like to say.
So I would recommend that you focus your limited investment dollars on areas where people don't have access to broadband. So the cable industry writ large, not just my company, but Time Warner, MetroPass, Beeline, pass approximately 600,000 homes and businesses in Maine. That's not everybody. Certainly no network, no particular industry type passes everybody. So there are areas of the state, we've heard from them, who would benefit from these partnerships. I think that there will always be a scarcity of resources. Whether you do increase the breadth of who's assessed for Connect Maine or you change the assessment, there's still going to be a limited amount of dollars. And the question, I think, is do you focus it on unserved areas, or are you less prescribed about how those dollars are spent? And our recommendation is to stay focused on unserved areas. We compete with the telephone company, wireless providers, CLECs, who are often referenced. There are any number of providers in the communities I serve, the communities other providers serve, that offer competitive service. I would argue the priority is in unserved areas.
Any other comments, questions?
No, go ahead.
Somebody talk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought you had a question yourself, in which case it's on you. Go ahead. Thanks, Mr. Hodge, for your detailed reading of this. We know words matter, and it's a deep dive on it. We really appreciate it. What's your take on the wireless industry's opposition to being involved in the funding of ConnectME?
I think that this bill represents a very substantial rethinking of the way the ConnectME Authority is going to work. And at this point in that process, I'm not sure that an expansion of the base and more resources are warranted until we work through the question of how the ConnectME Authority is going to spend its money.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Roger.
Chairman Woodson, Chairman Dion, members of the Utilities, Energy, and Technology Committee. I'm Rogine Tulk, representing Fairpoint today, and most of the points that I was going to make have been very eloquently made beforehand. We stand up here neither for nor against. Maybe that would be better said, we're sort of for and sort of against. In that what we see as the foundation of the bill is that it's been 8 years since the ConnectME Authority was developed, and a lot has happened in our industry in 8 years. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff, and there's a lot of challenge created by that. And so we think it is appropriate to take a good, strong, long look at what the ConnectME Authority does now, and perhaps what it should be doing from now forward, perhaps for the next 10 years before another rework or revamp. So we do support the studying of these issues, particularly as they relate to the ConnectME Authority, which is the state's broadband agency. So that's our support. We would suggest additional principles, and you've heard a couple of folks talk about an amendment. This amendment has been given to Representative Gideon, and it's an amendment that the industry concurs with. And it has certain principles that we would like to see considered and perhaps added back into this bill. And of course, the consideration of private investment. We think that the ConnectME Authority has done a good job having that portion in the ConnectME statute. That way, we have been able to maximize the state's scarce resources, both private and public, and we think that that's a valuable concept that should be considered to be added back in. We also agree that language with regard to transparency should be included in the bill. We are now in a highly competitive industry, and that's really good most of the time in the state of Maine for consumers and businesses. And with that robust competition, we want to make sure that all providers have to the extent possible, an equal opportunity to bid for this work, especially where we seem to have an agreement. There are regions of the state where just private investment alone is not going to be sufficient. So we're going to enter into, whether it's public-private partnerships, whatever they may be, we want to be careful that we don't create situations where as transparent a process as possible is in fact the process that we use. Finally, with regard to funding, we've got at least 3 bills this afternoon that talk about a lot of funding, and there's 3 different ways that they propose to do it. I think we know that at some point in time, funding needs to be considered, but I would submit to you that that might be putting the cart before the horse. We all know that deploying broadband in whatever form is really expensive. So we know that at some point in time, we probably need to consider that. I would say that now is perhaps not that time to consider whether we're going to increase a fee, whether we're going to increase taxes in the general fund, or explore other mechanisms until we really, really understand what's out there, where the needs are, and have a good, strong dialogue among all the parties, including the municipalities and the regions of the state. With that, I will conclude and answer any questions that I may.
Is there a record of where broadband is, lines that can be used. I mean, does the state have a complete record of all the different companies that are serving the different parts of Maine? That you know of?
To my knowledge, and I think you asked this of Tom Faderly, and I would agree with him, that to my knowledge, the place would be the ConnectME Authority to the extent that it has been able. I would say, every company knows where its facilities are. And to the extent that you become, there is proprietary information there in a competitive marketplace. And this is where the rub is. This is how do we merge these two issues, and that is going to be a challenge, and that is what warrants the study. But I would say, absent that, the ConnectME Authority's data, individual data lies with its own company.
Yes.
Is there proprietary information on if or not you're in a location?
Say again, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I thought I heard you say that there's proprietary information when he had asked you, is there any indication of where people are? Is there proprietary information that prevents you from saying if you're in an area or not?
Well, I think, in fact, most of the companies will say we're in downtown Sanford, say. As far as specific address locations, that has traditionally been considered to be information that is under protective order. In fact, the ConnectME statute recognizes that, and so the ConnectME Authority has the authority to issue protective order on specific detailed information. Now, there is kind of, in today's world, again, as it's said before, people who are knowledgeable about what is on the utility poles can see, if cable is going there. Now, I'll tell you, for me, they kind of look like a lot of dark cables going out there, but there are people who can absolutely tell who goes where and when. So one could say, well, then it's not really that big of a secret. But to get down to a very granular level, up to this date has been considered somewhat proprietary for companies.
Thank you very much. Josh Basto.
Chairman Woodson, Chairman Diane, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf on LD 1063. My comments are in support of those provided by Mr. Hodgson from Comcast earlier, and are intended to provide an example of a municipal infrastructure planning that we believe did not take into consideration the significant fiber optic infrastructure that is already in place, providing extensive broadband coverage and service options throughout the entire community, including capacity for direct fiber internet access. First, I'd like to introduce who MetroCast Communications is, where we are and what we do business. MetroCast Communications is a family-owned business with roots in the cable television business dating back into the 1960s. Currently, MetroCast provides cable television, telephone, and broadband service in 6 states, including 5 communities in southwestern Maine, Sanford being the largest of our 5 communities in Maine. The broadband networks we build and maintain in our service areas include traditional fiber-rich hybrid fiber coax networks, as well as fiber-to-the-home network infrastructures. In the city of Sanford, MetroCast provides a ubiquitous broadband service to 100% of the community through its deep HFC network. There's a map entitled MetroCast Existing Fiber Optic Network in the book. It provides a detailed look at the fiber network MetroCast has built in Sanford. In total, the existing MetroCast fiber network in the city covers 43 street miles and includes over 4,400 fiber strand miles. In addition to its past investments in the city of Sanford, in 2014, MetroCast constructed an additional 8 street miles of fiber optic cable in the city. In 2015, MetroCast is improving its DOCSIS product, its cable modem service, with an upgraded platform that will support downloaded speeds of up to 300 megabits per second to the house, with a 50 megabit upstream. This project will be completed in the second quarter of this year, And in addition to that, MetroCast will be deploying a technology, Gigabit PON, that will provide broadband bandwidth to the business community of up to 2 gigabits per second. Currently, MetroCast provides direct fiber optic connectivity to several commercial businesses in Sanford to provide the customized broadband they require. Direct fiber optic connectivity has been available in Sanford for several years for MetroCast. In addition to commercial fiber service, MetroCast has interconnected the City of Sanford school system with a private point-to-point fiber optic network, commonly called an institutional network or an INET. MetroCast constructed and maintains this dedicated interconnected network for use by the schools. There is a map of the INET also included in the packet. To provide immediate and quality customer service to the City of Sanford and the 30-plus communities that we provide service to in Maine and New Hampshire, MetroCast employs approximately 250 employees throughout the regional system, with an office located in Sanford and staff dedicated to the local community. MetroCast is strategically positioned to offer and support broadband services to the residents, businesses, and the community. Recently, the City of Sanford released an RFP for a municipally built and owned fiber optic network in the community. This network is depicted on a map titled Proposed City of Sanford Fiber Optic Network in the packet. As you will see on the map, which overlays both the existing MetroCast network and the proposed City of Sanford network, to a great extent, the city's proposed network is redundant to the existing MetroCast fiber optic network in place today. Additionally, the city's proposal calls for approximately 13 miles of backbone fiber to be built in a small area of the community. By comparison, MetroCast already has over 40 miles of backbone fiber providing service in the entire community. As mentioned earlier, MetroCast network is already designed to support direct fiber connectivity, or fiber to the prem as the industry labels it. I bring this information before the committee as an example of a community planning effort that did not take into consideration existing fiber optic infrastructure in place within the community. MetroCast believes it's important for the ConnectME Authority to promote broadband growth in the areas of the state that, because of various barriers, do not have access to broadband internet today. We believe the authority, through its history of providing grant-funded broadband networks and wireless build-outs, has been a catalyst for significant broadband expansion in rural areas of Maine lacking broadband service. We also believe the authority's focus should be to continue on those remaining areas that lack broadband service due to challenges encountered by some private companies to reach those areas, rather than the areas with existing broadband service available community-wide with significant fiber optic infrastructure on the place. I want to thank the committee for allowing me to take this opportunity to testify today. If you have any questions.
Representative Higgins.
Actually, mine is more of a comment. City Manager Buck was here a couple weeks ago. I think it'd be very helpful if he could attend a work session as well as you, because the question would be, why is the City of Sanford moving forward if the systems you have are there and meeting the demands of the citizens? So I think it'd be helpful if we had both parties in the room so the committee could ask pertinent questions. Thank you.
Representative Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, a similar question is, it seems like there's something missing here. Why didn't they want to hire you? Why don't you, was it a cost decision?
Hire us for
Utilizing your,
utilizing our network.
Yes.
Well, we weren't, actually, we kind of invited ourselves into understanding there was an RFP issued by the city. I went over and met with the Director of Economic Development Group personally and sat down and compared notes, and he was not familiar at the time. This was in November. He was not familiar of our fiber access network throughout the city and wasn't all that familiar with MetroCast as the franchised broadband provider for the town itself, which we had been the franchise broadband provider since 2000. And actually before that, the company we acquired that covered Sanford before that.
but they issued the RFP anyway?
Yes, we were invited to participate in the RFP.
Representative Dalby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was at a meeting, a broadband meeting, and none of the major suppliers were there. It was done through an economic development group. So, can you give me any feedback on why that might be? Why would the economic development groups not want to include absolutely everyone who's involved as opposed to a few select? I think there may have been 4 or 5 providers there. But they were the, and I don't mean smaller, but they were they weren't the gorillas in the room.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the Economic Development Committee of Sanford as to who they invited into their committee or not.
This wasn't in Sanford, this was in rural Maine. In fact, it was in Madison, Maine. But I'm just curious why, it sounds like the same sort of thing is occurring, rather than doing the homework and trying to optimize it all. They're sort of, and that was my question to one of the other commenters was, is there something in this for communities to do it themselves as opposed to opening it up for fair competition?
That's an excellent question. I don't have any, I would be, if I answered,
Okay.
I'd be speaking off the cuff. I think that part of the comments today regarding the three-ring broadband network in Maine drive a lot of this community connectivity, the desire to be connected. But
And I think that's a great, thing, but let's connect in the most economical manner. And I'm not sure that that's happening when you selectively invite a few people to participate and you don't open it up to everyone.
well, I would suggest that our position here is to represent that the city of Sanford, MetroCast serves the entire community with broadband services.
Okay.
We have a deep, rich fiber network that traverses the business community and the residential community, and we are continuing to invest heavily in our technology to bring better speeds and better services to Sanford going forward.
And I get it.
That's our position.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, so I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to testify one way or the other here? Okay, this ends the public hearing for 1063. Some of us have not been in out of the room so many times, so we're going to take a 5-minute break at least. We'll be taking up 1167 next.
I don't know, but I saw the same thing in Madison when
Oh, no. Don't tell me that got moved. No, it didn't. Okay.
You may want to have it to the window so you don't have to. This does get filmed by people as they go by, so I don't know where that.
Oh, no, it wasn't that. I was just trying to get that one.
they work with it. I agree. You know, so they can select the industry.
Okay.
Other programs are going right by.